Happy morning, and I am glad to welcome every one of you to my botany class. So let's get started. Today's topic for botany class is from chapter 2, and the topic's name is Kingdom Fungi. What is the topic for today? Kingdom Fungi. In our previous classes, we have studied about Kingdom Protista and Kingdom Monera, right? So in today's class, we are going to learn about the kingdom called as fungi. So first, you should know that fungi is a eukaryote. What is eukaryotes? What is prokaryote and what is eukaryote? I have told you several times, eu means it is true, eu means it is true, and karyon means it is nucleus. What does it mean? True nucleus or false nucleus? It means, suppose if there is a organism, if it has a nucleus, and if the nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, if the nucleus is surrounded by nuclear membrane, and if it has cell organelles, then it is called as a true nucleus. Whereas in the case of bacteria, all if you see, if there is a bacteria, there will be just a coil structure in the center without any nuclear membrane or without any cell organelles. In that case, it is called as a prokaryote. Okay, so this is the true nucleus, which means nucleus with a nuclear membrane. So fungi belongs to the category called as eukaryotes because they have a true nucleus. So they have a nucleus surrounded by a nuclear membrane, and also they have many organelles. What are organelles? You know, we have studied about organelles like mitochondria, which gives energy to the cell, and also there are other organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus. So you have many organelles. So however, fungi is a eukaryote because they have a nucleus, nuclear membrane as well as organelles. What else then? There are two types of fungi called as multicellular fungi and unicellular fungi. What is multicellular and what is unicellular? Multicellular means an organism which is made up of many cells. Are you multicellular or unicellular? We are all multicellular because human beings' body are made up of many cells. Okay, so similarly fungi is also multicellular. Multi means many, cellular means cells. So fungi are also multicellular at some times, and also some types of fungi are unicellular as well. If a fungi is multicellular, you call them by a name called as mold. What is a mold? Multicellular fungi are called as molds, and this mold's special property is they are non-green. What does it mean, non-green? Non-green means it is not green. Suppose if an organism is green, say for example if an algae is green or if a plant is green, it means those organisms will have chloroplast in them. What is chloroplast? Chloroplast is a pigment, right? So if something is green in color, it means they have chloroplast in them or chlorophyll in them, the pigment chlorophyll. But fungi are non-green, which means they do not have chlorophyll. If it lacks chlorophyll, it means there is no photosynthesis also. Algae are green, plants are green because they have chlorophyll, and also they can carry out photosynthesis, right? Whereas in fungi, they don't have chlorophyll and there is no photosynthesis also. So this is next property. I told you already fungi may be multicellular or unicellular, no? So about multicellular fungi we have studied. Now we will learn about unicellular fungi. If a fungi is unicellular, they are called as yeast. What are unicellular fungi called as? They are called by the name yeast. Okay, so this is about the types of fungi. Now we learn about the structure of a fungi. How many of you have seen fungi? Have you seen fungi? Where have you seen? Say suppose if you buy bread packet from a shop. Okay, so you eat few breads and some breads are left over in the packet. Okay, place as such for 3 or 4 days. After 3-4 days, what happens? You will see some sponge like structure over the surface of the bread. Have you seen this? Mostly this happens on the 3rd day. You can find some cottony structure on the surface of the bread, or if you don't note cottony structure, you can see some spots, colored spots, no? So that is nothing but that is fungi. So you may wonder, this appears like a ginger, and how do ma'am call this as a fungi? This structure what I have shown you here, no, that is the microscopic structure. What is microscopic structure? If you take those cottony structure and put it under the microscope and see, you will see such a structure. Okay, so the structure, the detailed structure of fungi, how are we studying? Just by placing under the microscope only, we are studying the structure of the fungi actually. Okay, so simply by seeing on the surface of the bread, you cannot find the detailed structure, right? So that's why to enlarge and see it clearly, we put under the microscope, and if you put under the microscope, you see such a image. If God willing, when you come back to school, I'll take you to laboratory and show you the structure of fungi all. Okay, so now let's learn the theory part. How does a fungi appear and what parts all a fungi contain? First, it has long filaments. What are long filaments? Filaments are nothing but tube-like structures. See, you have long tubes here, no? That's why they are called as long filaments. They are long tube-like structures. These long tube-like structures, if it is one structure, you call it as hypha. The long filamentous or tube-like structure in fungi are called by the name hypha, and you call it as hyphae when it is plural. When do you call it as hyphae? When it is plural, you can call it as hyphae. Okay, and then many hyphae together you call by the name mycelium. See here, the structure fully is made of hyphae, right? So this is one hypha, this is one hypha, this is hypha. So a network of, what is network? Like a net it appears, no? Which means it is cross-linked to each other. So the network of hypha or hyphae is called by the term mycelium. Okay, so let's see the explanation part. So network of hyphae is called by the term mycelium. So this is the basic structure of fungi. What all you know about the structure of fungi? Fungi appear like long tubes or filaments, and that long tube is called as hypha, and many hypha together is called as hyphae. Plural is hyphae. And then a network of hyphae, when they are cross-linked to each other, many hyphae together are called by the term mycelium. Okay, so this is the basic structure of fungi. What are we going to learn about next? Okay, then about the nutrition in fungi. What do they depend upon for their food? Fungi are heterotrophic. These terms all you have heard many times, right? I myself have repeated many times. Heterotrophic and autotrophic. Autotrophs are something which can produce their own food, and heterotrophs are something which will depend on other organisms for their food, right? So these fungi also depend on other organisms for their food, so they are called by the term heterotrophic. They can be heterotrophic, and again heterotrophism may be of two types. Either they are saprophytic or they are parasitics. There are two types of nutrition observed in fungi. Either they are saprophytic or they are parasitic. What is a saprophyte? Saprophytes are the organisms which live on or depend upon dead and decaying organisms, dead decomposing organisms. What are saprophytes? Always you can find these type of fungi only on dead organisms. Okay, and parasitic fungi, they always depend on another living organism, and that living organism is called as host. Say for example, if there is a fungi inside my stomach, then I am the host for that fungi. Okay, or if this fungi is going to live on some other animal or a plant, that animal or plant will be the host for the fungi. Okay, which type of fungi live on living organisms? Parasitic fungi. If a fungi will live on dead organisms, then that fungi is called as saprophytic fungi, and if a fungi is going to live on living organisms, that fungi is called as parasitic fungi. Okay, so on which dead and decomposing materials do these fungi live? That dead material can be a plant dead remain or a animal dead remain. Say for example, the leaves of the plants fall on the ground, no? The fungi will grow on the leaves, that is dead plant material, right? Similarly, when you bury a dead body, or in some days or some months, they completely decompose. Which decomposes them? The bacteria, and the fungi only decomposes them. Which type of bacteria or fungi? Saprophytic fungi will decompose them. Okay, so this dead or decomposing material can be either a plant material or a animal material. Here, as I told you, these will live, the parasitic fungi will live only on living organisms, and when a fungi lives inside my body, obviously it may cause diseases. Mostly fungi are not beneficial to human body, but they cause diseases. If they live on a plant, then it will cause disease to the plant. Similarly, if they live on any animal, they will cause disease to the animal. So mostly parasitic fungi end up in causing diseases to the organisms where they live. Some examples are given. Saprophytes. Saprophytic fungi examples are mushroom and mold is a general term for multicellular fungi. So mushrooms and molds are examples for saprophytic fungi, and for parasitic fungi, rusts and smuts. Okay, these are disease causing fungi, rusts and smuts. Here saprophytic fungi's example is mushroom, parasitic fungi's example is rusts and smuts. These terms you should be familiar. So these are the two types of nutrition in fungi. So next we are going to learn about a typical fungi. What is typical fungi? See, when you study the property of some organism, let it be a bacteria or a fungi, you take one as an example, a typical example. Okay, and then you study the properties of that particular example, so that property will fit into the general property of other fungi also. Similarly, here the example given, the typical example given is rhizopus or bread mold. In your textbook, rhizopus or bread mold is given. I told you, no, when you place bread as such for some days, you can find some cottony or spongy structure on the bread, no? So that is called rhizopus. Since rhizopus is common on the bread, it has a nickname called as bread mold. Okay, so where all rhizopus can grow? One example I gave you, it can grow on bread. Where else can they grow? They can grow on organic matter. Wherever organic material is present, either in soil or in food, it will grow immediately. Also, it can grow on stale bread. What is stale? Stale means very dry bread. Okay, it will lack moisture, it is not soft, it becomes dry. That condition is called stale bread. So in stale bread you can find, and also in rotten fruits, decayed fruits you can see, and also on the leather. If you have leather bags or leather shoes, all no, if you place in a place being unused for some days, you can see some white structure or green structure on them. Have you seen? So they are nothing but they are rhizopus. And also on damp clothes, suppose commonly where you can see is, suppose if you have a habit of not spreading your towel properly after you take bath, no, some kids what they do after taking bath, they crush the towel nicely and dump it in one place. So if you do this frequently, you will notice some black spots on the towel, right? So they are nothing but fungi. So do not do that. If you are doing that regularly, hereafter do not do, because that is fungi and you will get diseases. So what you will do after taking bath, spread your towel well and make it to dry so that you don't get fungal growth on that. And also on papers, suppose if the paper has moisture because of rain on, if humidity is more in your place, you can find even fungal growth, that black spots on the paper also you can see if it is moist. And then we learn about the detailed structure of rhizopus. Okay, so I told you this is the rhizopus, what all you know. See, I have shown you a bread with rhizopus. Can you see white cottony structure, like a cotton it appears, right? This is the rhizopus, and if you take this and put it under the microscope, you can see this structure. Clear? So first the explanation given is, it is a cottony mass. It appears like a cotton, so it is called as a cottony mass, and it is thread like. If you carefully see, it is like small thread like, fine thread like structure. So that thread like structure is hyphae. Do you remember in the previous slide I showed you, right? What did I show you? I showed you such long tube like structure and they are branched sometimes, and this is called hyphae, I told you, right? So the thread like structure is called as hyphae. This thread like structure is the hyphae. Then the structure is single and continuous. It is single usually in one way and continuous, which means there is no partition in between. You do not have separations like this in between. Instead, it is continuously a single column like structure. And then the column will contain cytoplasm. So in bacteria all you have seen small dots. Now how you represent the cytoplasm? If I draw a bacteria, when I place dots, it is called cytoplasm, right? So similarly, if it is a yeast like this, when dots are placed, then it is the cytoplasm. Similarly, inside this column also you will have cytoplasm, that is the dotted structure, and also you have many nuclei. It is multi-nuclei. You have nucleus and cytoplasm also. What all we have studied? It is a small thread-like structure, and these thread-like structure are called as hyphae. They usually have single columns and they are continuous. They do not have septum. The septum is absent, which means there is no partition. It exists as a single column, and the column is filled with cytoplasm and nucleus. This all we have studied. Then they have root-like structure called as rhizoids. See here in the structure, if you see, similar to the plant structure, no, they have root-like structure, and these root-like structures are called as rhizoids. Clear? Then also there are slender columns. You have many columns, and these columns are called as, see, can you see tube-like structures? So these tube-like structures or columns are called by the term sporangiophore. It is not sporangiospore, it is sporangiophore. Phores. These column-like structures are called as sporangiophores. Okay, so root-like structures are called as rhizoids. These terms should be familiar to you. And these column or tube-like structures are called as sporangiophores. So these column structures, that is the sporangiophores, will end up in oval. Can you see oval structures here? So they will end up, sporangiophores will end up in oval structures, and that oval structure is called as sporangium. So three new terms we have studied here. Number one, rhizoids, which is root-like structure. Then tube-like structure called sporangiophores, and also cup-like structure, oval-shaped structure called as sporangium. And inside the sporangium you have dot structures. Can you see dots like this in brown color? So these dots are the spores. Okay. So now we have studied about the structure of Rhizopus. Next, let us learn about the nutrition in Rhizopus and also the respiration in Rhizopus. Nutrition in Rhizopus in our standard or general nutrition of fungi itself, I told you, fungi are mostly saprophytic or parasitic, right? This Rhizopus is not a parasite because it is not going to cause any disease in organisms, but it is saprophyte, which means it will live on other organisms for their food, on dead organisms for their food. Rhizopus is a saprophyte. Where all can you see? You can see in stale food like stale bread, I told you, no? Similarly, any dry food you can see Rhizopus, and also especially in pickles. Pickles usually will last long, they are not easily spoiled all, but after some days, no, maybe after 6 months or 1 year, you will find some white spots or colored spots on the surface of the pickles, right? So it is nothing but it is the fungi called as Rhizopus. So hereafter if you find such spots at your home, do not eat that because it may cause food poisoning. Okay, so what they do, how do they feed on them? Usually just like human beings, fungi also have enzymes in them. So when they are on the food, they secrete the enzyme, and the enzyme will dilute the complex food into simple food so that the nutrients are in the simple forms. So what did I tell you? Fungi, when they live on a complex food, they produce enzymes. The enzymes will dilute the complex material into simpler forms, simpler nutrients, and then they can eat the simple nutrients. About the respiration in fungi, they are aerobic respiration. What is aerobic? Aerobic means they need oxygen for their survival. The term anaerobic means they do not need oxygen for their survival, but fungi belong to the category of being aerobic, which means they will take in oxygen just like human beings and give out carbon dioxide. That is how they respire. There are two conditions for respiration to happen in fungi. What are those two conditions? One is they need low sunlight, only in dark places this will happen, and also they need humidity. Humidity means moisture. So what are the two conditions when respiration happen in fungi, especially the Rhizopus? One is the sunlight should be so less, or it should be dark in condition, and also there should be humidity. Okay, so this is about the nutrition and respiration in fungi. So now we are going to learn two things. One is how are all fungi useful, and the second thing is how are all fungi harmful. So if there is some character, it will have both good things to do and also bad things to do, right? So this fungi also has many useful properties which is beneficial to the human, and also they have many harmful aspects. So first we will see the positive side. How are all fungi useful? Number one, fungi is used in baking. It is used in baking. Yeast, all when your mom makes cake at home, or even for appam if you make, some may add yeast, right? That small ball like structures. If you ask your mom, she can show you if you have at home. So for that yeast, I told you yeast is a unicellular fungi, right? So that yeast can be used in making bread, pizza base or cakes, any bakery material which is to be baked in oven, or these yeast can be used. Yeast is a fungi. Okay. The second use is fungi are used in making alcoholic beverages like wine and beer, all can be made with the help of fungi. How? When you take either grapes or cane sugar, it is not the plain sugar, cane sugar, which means the sugar cane, or barley grain if you take, and add fungi to it and keep it in a place for many days. After that you will get wine or beer. So in wine or beer making also fungi can be used. Then edible products such as cheese, no? this is not at your home, but in industries when they make, they add some fungi to the cheese. When they add the fungi, it will do two things. One is the flavor is very good, and also the texture of the cheese is also improved when the fungi is added. So it is used in cheese in industrial scale. And then the medicinal use of fungi is they produce antibiotics. When you are sick for a longer duration, you take antibiotics no, that antibiotics is produced by certain fungi. Which fungi? A fungi called as penicillium. The name of the fungi is penicillium. I is here, okay. And what antibiotic it produces? It produces antibiotics like penicillin and ampicillin. These two are the names of the antibiotics, and this is the name of the fungi. The name of the fungi is penicillium, produces an antibiotic called penicillin. Penicillin, okay, here you don't have I. Clear? So this is one more use. And other commercial uses. There is one fungi called Aspergillus niger. See, all these terms are new to you, so please read them again and again until it registers in your mind. Okay. So Aspergillus niger is a fungi which can produce soy sauce and citric acid. These are all commercial levels. In industrial level, they are all produced. We don't make at home. And one more use is fungi can also be used as biofertilizer. Just like the chemical fertilizers, there are also biofertilizers, which means some living organism is going to be used as a fertilizer. So in this case, we are studying about fungi, right? Fungi can be used as a fertilizer. How fungi in relation with the plant can benefit the plant? It can act as a fertilizer. Certain fungi, they are called as mycorrhiza. When a fungi is associated with a plant, it has the term called as mycorrhiza, and it can act as a fertilizer. It will fix the fertilizers, it will fix the atmospheric nitrogen to the plant, and thus it can act as a fertilizer. So these are all the positive aspects of fungi, and equally fungi are harmful either to the human or to the plants. They are harmful, they cause diseases. So what are they? Let us see. First one, it can cause food spoilage. If a fungi is present in a food, definitely it will spoil the food. Which food all? It can be a bread, or it can be a fruit or vegetable. Any food, if it is present, it will spoil the food. What is the outcome of food spoilage? You will end up in food poisoning. Have you undergone food poisoning in your life? When you eat outside, or sometimes when the food is not good or hygienic, you vomit, or you will have severe headache, or you will get loose motion, right? So this is all symptoms of food poisoning. And also when fungi is present in these food items, it may result in food poisoning. And also it can spoil non-food. What is non-food? It can spoil something which is not a food. What all it can spoil? It can be a textile, or it can be leather, or shoe, or furniture, or paper. On these things also already we have studied, no? I have told about these things all. So fungi, when it is present on these things, how can you know? Usually it is white in color, like a powder, face powder, it will appear, or else it will be like dark spots, black spots usually, or sometimes green in color you can find. If you find some material, just clean it immediately, otherwise you may get infection or diseases. And also fungi helps in recycling of nutrients. How? I told you already, fungi are saprophytic, which means they live on dead and decayed plants or animals, right? Say for example, there are many dried leaves in your garden. When you have fungi on them, they will easily decompose and they will recycle the nutrients. The nutrients of the plants will be returned back to the soil, which can again be taken up by the plants. This is called recycling. Okay, again and again the nutrients are used up. And then I told about diseases. No, what all diseases they cause? There is a fungi called toadstool fungi. Again, you need to memorize these terms. What is the name of the fungi? toadstool fungi, and if this fungi is present in the food, it will cause a death. When you consume that food, it can result even in death, such dangerous as toadstool fungi. And then there is one more fungi called polyporous. What is that? Polyporous. They cause decay to the trees, standing trees, so which is steady. Tree, which means the tree which is growing can also be infected. It doesn't mean that the cut bark or the timber, even the tree which is growing itself can be infected with this polyporous fungi. Steady trees are infected. What will happen if steady trees are infected? When you cut it for timber, all no, we use it for constructing house, all no, in the windows, everything. So when the fungi is infecting the tree, you cannot have a good timber from the plant. In that way, it is harmful to human, and then it causes diseases to human like athlete's foot and oral thrush. Athlete's foot is, see, athletes usually they'll be wearing socks and shoes always, right? So they will have a moist condition in their foot, right? So in that condition, these fungi usually can cause infection. They will get sore in their foot, that is called athlete's foot. And also oral thrush. Oral thrush is usually in AIDS patient you get oral thrush, which means on the tongue, no, you will have some cottony structure. There will be infection on the tongue region. Okay, so that is oral thrush caused by the fungi. These two are present in human being. The last three are present in plants. Certain fungi can cause plant diseases like mildew, rusts and smuts. What are the names of the diseases? Mildew, rusts and smuts. So these ways fungi are harmful to plants and also to human beings. Then the homework part. For today's homework, read the portion what I have taught today. It is from pages 45 to 49. Please read it immediately. And also in page number 49, you have 5 questions. Solve them and send it to me. Okay. So that is all for today's class, and until I meet you in your next biology class, you all take care and bye bye.